මේ රටේ හැම තැනකින්ම අපි ඉඩකඩම් මුස්ලිම් ජනතාවට දුන්නා. කුළු ගෙඩියෙන් එක 70ක් තියෙනවා හාමුදුරනේ 10ක් මොන කච්චක්ද අපිට. ඒ නිසා මුළු ජාතියම ඉවරයි. මේ කොහෙට කියනවා මාත් එක්ක සහභාගී වෙලා මේ ගාන හදන්න. ලංකාවේ සියලුම ජනතාව දෙකෝටි ඉක්මවලා ඉන්නවා. හැබැයි ලංකාවේ සිංහල ජනගහනය මතක තියාගන්න ඉන්නේ 1,30,00,000යි. ඒ නිසා අපිට අනාගතේ කතා කරන්න බැරි මට්ටමට මේ අවසාන අවස්ථාවටයි පත් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒ නිසා දරුවෝ හදන්න අද ඉඳලා
Meet Buddha Balasena, founded by a handful of Buddhist monks in Sri Lanka in 2012. They have been touring the country in helping them, the government or foreign forces. But first, a local journalist wanted to see us. He said he had evidence of the desecration of Muslim shrines.
And what's happening here? Who are these people?
These monks are coming and some crowd from outside of Anuradhapura.
Yeah.
And they came and they destroyed the front of police.
Surely the police must have stopped them.
They were there. You can see the visuals.
The Anuradhapura shrine has been a Muslim holy place for hundreds of years and was an official UNESCO site. It has now been destroyed.
And what's happening here? What are they burning?
Yeah, actually, they're burning the Al-Quran.
They're burning the Quran?
Yes. And they say, this is
a monk here doing that?
Yeah, of course. You listen the voice? What he says, killing animal law book is this and burning.
The police can clearly be seen standing around watching, raising the question of whether the Sri Lankan government is working with the BBS.
Why are these Buddhist monks doing this?
Actually, we have a history in Sri Lanka. The Muslims has a history. They want to destroy all the history.
The BBS and other extremist groups have been decrying issues familiar to Islamophobic groups around the world.
Now, this is the main issue that extremist groups have used to whip up anti-Muslim tension, the halal certification. Now, there is a lot of these certifications on a lot of foods here in Sri Lanka. I've walked around the supermarket on ice cream, on milk, on biscuits like these, and you can see the tiny little certification there. It used to be much bigger, but because of the uproar, they've made it tiny. You might just be able to make it out.
But halal certification isn't the only gripe they have. Some of their claims are based in fact. Some are downright absurd.
At one point recently, a certain Muslim fashion store started distributing sweets like these, and the extremist groups accused them of putting birth control substances inside the sweets, therefore trying to stop Buddhist Sinhalese people giving birth.
ඔය මුස්ලිම් හෝටල් වලට ගිහිල්ලා කාලා බීලා හැම ඇති. දන්නවද ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ අල් කුරානේ තියෙන නීතිය? මොකක්ද නීතිය? ඔවුන්ගේ නීතිය තමයි ඉස්ලාම් නොවන, මුස්ලිම් නොවන, අන්‍ය ජාතික වන, අන්‍ය ආගමික වන ඕනම කෙනෙකුට කෑමක් දෙනවා නම්, බීමක් දෙනවා නම් තුන් පාරක් කෙල ගහලා තමයි දෙන්නේ. තුන් පාරක් කෙල ගහලා තමයි දෙන්නේ. හෝටල් වල ඔය බොන තේ එකට කෙල පාරවල් වැදිලා ඇති. මුස්ලිම් හෝටල් වලට ගිහිල්ලා කාපු කෑම වලට ඔබ දන්නේ නැතුව කෙල පාරවල් වැදිලා ඇති. ශරියා නීතිය ඕකයි.
You have very supposedly intelligent and educated people who will subscribe to the BBS propaganda about Sinhala women being given sweets in Muslim shops to make them infertile, or that in 10 years or 15 years' time this will become a Muslim majority country. I mean, this is absurd nonsense. A ridiculous lie repeated often enough becomes a truth.
Accusation against some Muslim-owned businesses have resulted in violence. A crowd gathered outside the clothing store Fashion Bug. A Buddhist monk throws the first stone.
The BBS seeks to define or redefine or secure assent for its definition of Sri Lanka as a Sinhala Buddhist country and state. It is explicitly critical of and rejects the idea of Sri Lanka as a pluralist, multicultural society.
So what would happen to the Muslims in this state and the Christians?
Well, they'd better shut up and put up, really. That is what it's about. It's about domination.
Many in Sri Lanka can't understand how this group...
Police watching, they destroyed the entire shrine. 1 year ago, the government supported an extremist Buddhist organization who came in the name of Buddhabala Sena.
So you think the government has supported them?
Definitely. We have accused the government right throughout for supporting this organization, helping them in every way, because the statements made by them, by now, all those people should be arrested, not me.
The accusation against Mr. Sali was that he told a journalist in India that Muslims might take up arms against Buddhist extremists. He denies the charges, which have since been dropped.
You're being held supposedly for 3 months under terrorist charges. Humiliate the government and create religious disharmony.
Yeah.
You show me those pictures.
Who is creating disharmony?
As for the Buddhabala Sena, no, I don't think they've even been visited by the local constabulary. Not once. And there's plenty of evidence of hate speech.
So it's clear for you that the BBS has some tacit support from sections of the government?
I wouldn't call it tacit, I'd call it explicit support from sections of the government.
And sections of the government or the government?
I think in general from the government, but in particular from particular individuals.
So the BBS has this white, spanking new high-rise. There are state officers, governmental officers, which have rented space in this tower that sprang up, the BBS tower, as it were.
I thought it was time to meet the BBS myself.
Hello, is that Mr. Delanta?
Yeah.
Hi there, this is Johnny Miller. I'm a British journalist, and I'm in Sri Lanka to make a short film about the tensions that are going on at the moment. And we're looking for an interview with yourself. Would you be available for that?
They agreed, and off we went. Inside the front door are pictures of Sri Lanka's powerful Secretary of Defence, who was the guest of honour at the opening of BBS's new training school. "It is the monks who protect our country, religion and race," the Secretary of Defence said. "No one should doubt these clergy. We're here to give you our encouragement." Next stop, the Ministry of Justice, and the Muslim minister, Rauf Hakim. Despite the current anti-Muslim sentiment, there are many high-profile Muslim politicians in the country. I told Mr. Hakim about the video I had seen of the destruction of the shrine at Anuradhapura.
I've seen that video and I've seen police standing by and watching as that's being destroyed. You're the Minister of Justice. That happened, right? Why are these police standing side letting it happen?
You see, I was one of those people who immediately criticized the police for its inaction and even criticized the government.
You can see how people think the government is involved.
More than involvement, the government is inhibited by fear of not stopping these people because of fear of losing their votes, because they are looking at it, because they are not governing in that case. You see, this is what I say, there is a failure of government.
Despite accepting criticism for not doing enough to stop the BBS, the minister scoffed at the idea that it was the government who was supporting them. He laid the blame elsewhere.
Well, however patronizing the West may be when it comes to criticizing the fascist and supremacist agenda of the BBS, they are giving them paid trips, they are inviting them to their doorsteps, they are giving them all types of VIP treatments. I mean, where does it come from? Why is this?
So you're accusing Western governments of essentially funding and helping the BBS?
You know, because they may be having proxies, you see.
For me, it's very suspicious how they just came from nowhere at a very critical point in where Sri Lanka was being attacked in the international arena by the United States, India. It's about strategic interests. It's about China rather than about Muslims.
While we're in Colombo, the country was gearing up for a military parade. It was to celebrate the nation's recent victory in a debilitating 30-year civil war against the Tamil LTTE in the north. Now the war is over, the West and the East have been competing to invest in Sri Lanka. To the annoyance of many world powers, it is choosing an independent path. Back at the BBS, we had a meeting with the head monk. We had to wait our turn as local journalists were queuing up as well.
What's the big news today?
Huh?
What's the big news today?
But, because one of the ministers attacking us, no? You know about that?
No, what did he say?
The government ministers attacking us.
What did he say?
About this funding from Norway.
Are you funded from Norway?
No.
They paid for you to go to America, didn't they? They paid for you to go to America.
Oh, no.
Who paid for you to go to America?
We have funds.
After their recent tour of the US, the BBS say they plan to set up an office there. It's still unclear where their money is coming from. The venerable monk Gannasara is the leader of Buddha Bala Sena and their main speaker at events around the country. Our friend Delanta, the PR man, insisted on sitting in on the meeting.
Now, in your view, are there too many Muslims in Sri Lanka? But do you think that Sinhalese people should breed more?
Oh.
Yes.
Why?
ලෝකේ එකම ජාතිය අපි අවුරුදු 2300ක් බුද්ධාගම රැකපු. එනිසා අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා බුද්ධාගම රැකෙන්නේ සිංහලයෝ හිටියොත් විතරයි. මේ රටේ ලෝකෙ රැකේ. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා මේක සිංහලයෝ හදපු රට සිංහල රට. ඒ නිසා අපිට යන්න ලෝකෙ වෙන රටක් නැහැ. ඒ නිසා සිංහලයෝ වැඩි වැඩියෙන් දරුවෝ හදන්න ඕන. මොකද මේක අරාබිය නොවන නිසා.
I asked him whether he thought Muslims posed a threat to Sinhalese people.
අපි දන්නා කුරානය අනිත් සියලුම දේවල් වල තියෙන්නේ ගහ ගැනීම මරා ගැනීම ලේහලා ගැනීම. ඒ බුද්ධ ආගමේ කොහෙවත් නැහැ හිංසනයක්. ඒතර ඒගොල්ලෝ ඇවිල්ලා වෙඩි තියනකන් අපිට භාවනා කරන්නද කිය? ප්‍රශ්න තියෙන්නේ අපිට කියන්න තැනක් නැහැ ලෝකේ. ඒ නම්බර්ස් ගණනින් ඒගොල්ලෝ ලොකුයි. ඒගොල්ලන්ට මුදල් තියෙනවා.
Scenes at a law college in Colombo.
It was here one day in January this year that anti-Muslim violence again erupted in the country. There was a protest started by students who were annoyed they didn't get into the law course.
The students said too many Muslims were being accepted instead of them. Cue more violence. Monks again at the forefront. The BBS deny having any hand in the violence.
Do you support the destruction of Muslim holy sites in Sri Lanka?
එහෙම කිසිදයක් මේ රටේ වාර්තා වෙලා නැහැ. ඒක සියල්ල බොරු.
What about Dambola? And there was
සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම වැරදි අදහසක්. මේ රටේ ඓතිහාසික මුස්ලිම් කියලා ස්ථාන නැත.
Not only does Gadnasara claim there has never been any Muslim holy sites in Sri Lanka, he says it is Buddhist sites that are being destroyed instead.
You see, for them, they want emotional, sentimental issues to become popular. And nothing is more emotional than to go and say that our temples, our cultural icons are getting destroyed. These are all, in my opinion, pretexts to take forward different supremacist agenda, a fascist agenda.
There hasn't been any Muslim terrorism in Sri Lanka.
අවශ්‍ය මොහොතක ඒගොල්ලෝ පටන් ගන්නේ මොකද අපි ඒක ඔබතුමා මීඩියා වල වාර්තා නොවුනට ඊටාම දරුණුම ගණේ පාතාල smuggling.
That's not terrorism, that's crime.
No, but you have to, I will give you a couple of books. They define that as terrorism.
What, crime?
No, not crime.
Drug smuggling?
Drugs, not just that is some defined as terrorism. But I will invite you.
Delanta told me that recently a Muslim man had been caught smuggling birth control substances into the country.
අපි විශ්වාස කරන්නේ උපත් පාලනයක් වැරදි විදියට දීලා බලහත්කාරයෙන් යොදවලා හරි දරුවෝ බඩේදී මරනවා නම් ඒකත් ත්‍රස්තවාදයක්.
Do you think Muslims are trying to force birth control on Sinhalese people?
Yes.
What do Muslims want to do?
මේ රට අල්ල ගැනීම විස වෙන මොකද්ද?
රැට හොරෙන් හරි ගෙනල්ලා සතෙක් මරලා බිලි දීලා මෙව්වට හාමුදුරනේ ප්‍රේතයෝ කුම්භාණ්ඩයෝ නැත්තම් යක්කු බන්දනවා. ඊට පස්සේ ඉඳන් ඉවරයි. මේ ප්‍රේතයෝ අරක් ගන්නවා මෙව්වට. ලංකාවේ නෙමේ රට ගිහිල්ලා හිටියත් කුලියට දීලා මේක එහෙ ඉන්න මිනිස්සු ආර්ථිකව වටනවා, ලෙඩ හදවනවා, ඔක්කොම කරනවා, පරම්පරාව විමර කරනවා. ඉතාමත් වගකීමෙන් අනාගතේ මේ රටේ ශාරියා නීති ඇති වෙන්න හාමුදුරනේ දැන් පසුබිම හදලා ඉවරයි.
Recent violence has died down, but much of the damage has already been done. Many fear that thanks to Buddhabala Sena, Islamophobia in Sri Lanka is here to stay. Muslims are scared. Violence could erupt again at any time.
අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම අපිට අවශ්‍ය ඉන්ටර්නැෂනල් බුද්දිස් ෆ්‍රන්ට් එකක් හදන්න. ඒ ආයුධ වලින් සන්නද්ධ වෙච්ච ත්‍රස්ත බිය නැති කරන්න නම් අපි මතවාදීව ශක්තිමත් හඬක් ලෝකෙ නැගී